Welcome to the show, everyone. I am your host, Anya Chrysanthemum, and thanks for tuning in for another episode of the New Construction Marketing Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. I can't wait to, oh boy, there goes Rhaegar. So my husky literally just knocked over a bunch of stuff, so I'm sure he's going to cause the ruckus per usual. So, well, that's just the nature of podcasting.
Awesome.
So,
I love it.
So if he may make an appearance later on, we'll see. But I'm very excited to introduce our guest today. Her name is Alaina Money, and you guys will see why she's so money. She's the founder and CEO of two brands. One is Garmin Homes, and she recently started a new brand, Fresh Paint by Garmin Homes. So she's a girl home builder, which you don't find too many girls. So definitely paving the way and empowering women. And they're expanding from North Carolina area into Denver. So I can't wait to catch up on all the things that Alaina is pioneering for us. So welcome to the show, Alaina.
Thank you, Anya. I'm so honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. So per usual, I'd like to start off the show by getting a little bit of your story. So
okay.
How did you get started in home building, and how did you get to be where you are now?
So it's an interesting story, as everyone's is. I was actually in healthcare, and I was kind of miserable in a job that I didn't love. And I started asking people, like, who loves what they do? Because I didn't really know anyone who loved what they did. And a friend put his hand up, and he was like, I love what I do. And he sold on-site for D.R. Horton. And I had just built a home with D.R. Horton. And so I thought, I can do that. And so I went on site, and I loved it. And it was really fun. And I worked for D.R. Horton for a little bit, and then I worked for Standard Pacific Homes before they were Cal Atlantic. And I knew I wanted to get into sales management and kind of climb the corporate ladder. But I had, my second daughter was an infant at the time when a sales management position became possible. And it was just too big of a sacrifice of my motherhood at that point. I'm a big believer in timing, and it's not that I couldn't do it, it's just that the timing wasn't right. So around that time, Jim had just started Garmin Homes. And I really wanted to be part of something from the start, from the ground up. So I reached out to him and told him I wanted to start his sales team. And we still joke that he never offered me a job. I just I wanted to come work for him. And together, he had built 12 homes that first year. Mm-hmm. And then the month I started, which was April, so it's kind of cheating, but the month I started, we sold 11. So we were kind of off and running.
Wow. Yeah.
Really fun. It's been a really fun ride. So I started the sales team, and then I wanted to build a home. I wanted to learn how to build a home because Jim told me that during the downturn, I asked him why weren't more women running home building companies? Because to me, coming from sales and marketing background, everything is sales. And so why weren't we just selling ourselves out of this recession, right? So I started to ask him, like, I had worked for these really great women. Why aren't they going past that VP of sales and marketing role? Why aren't they running things? And he said, I don't know. Some could be corporate culture, but some could be that they don't know how to build a house. If they don't know the operation side, then that's going to hold them back. So I said, I want you to teach me how to build a home. I want to be considered. I want to earn the right to be considered and to put my name out there, because I wanted to run it at some point. I wanted this job that I have right now.
You're so right. So, and it seems that there's definitely, when you hear about all these people who are up and coming, and they're going through this so-called rotations, right? That they rotate through sales, they rotate through land, and then project manager role, so they can learn all these aspects. You rarely see women in that rotation, right? It's always male, male, male. So I really admire the fact that you just said, hey, I'm going to go and do this. You know, you weren't like, oh, let me see if, I work hard and somebody's going to notice me. I'm just going to go ahead and take the life by the horns, and I'm going to, Yeah,
I mean, you have to put it out there. It's not going to, you have to have the confidence in yourself to say, I want this. And I wanted to earn it, certainly, but I was putting it out there to kind of put Jim on notice that I wanted to run this, and I wanted to be the best candidate, and I was going to wake up every day and earn that.
So where did you find the confidence to do that? Were you not afraid that he'll say, yeah, well, thanks, but no thanks? Who do you think you are? And do you have the experience? You really don't have the experience. Clearly, you don't know how to build a house. So why even bother? Like, where did you find the self-confidence to say, why not me?
I think, I don't know. Maybe I was just born with it. Probably my parents told us we could, I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and my siblings are pretty accomplished. And it was always one of those things, why not me? Why can't I do this? And I think my dad says that I don't fail because I don't consider it. I don't consider failure as part of the equation. And I fail often, but I don't lead with that. I don't let that be my guiding fear. I just put it out there and make people aware that I'm going to do everything I can to earn it. I don't know where that confidence comes from. I guess just believing in myself. There's, when you look around, I think you figure out that every one of us has an extraordinary amount of unique gifts. And if we can wake up every day and make the highest and best use of each of those gifts, then there's nothing holding any of us back from reaching our highest potential. I don't think that there's a ceiling that each person has a ceiling and, mine is here and his is here. I think that each of us, it's a process of unlocking our own potential and owning our gifts and wanting to share those and having the confidence to fail, but then to get right back up and try again.
Mm-hmm. I think that is huge. A lot of people are afraid to fail. They look at failure as the end of all, right? Like if I fail, clearly everyone saw that I'm not good enough and that I'm just not cut out for it. So how do you look at failure differently than a failure? How do you look at it as a lesson? So, maybe if somebody's starting out in new construction home sales and their dreams are to climb that corporate ladder and to be a VP of marketing one day and maybe the division president at some point. So how do you say, hey, a fail doesn't mean it's the end of the road?
No, I think failure, I think if we look at failure as milestones instead of a dead end, a failure is a milestone because it's just you're just working out the kinks. That's just like version 1.0. So, okay, this one didn't work. Let's try something else. I think it's the try. You celebrate the try, and hopefully you're in a culture. I don't want to minimize the fact that I was in a place with a great culture that encouraged me to speak up and go after what I believed in. I don't want to take for granted that not everyone is in a situation like that. But if you can create that for yourself in your own mind and in an online community, especially one like you're creating, I think that you can connect yourself. It's easier to connect yourself with people even beyond your company. But if you're someone who is kind of committed to your own dreams and knowing that failure is just part of the process, it's like a notch in your belt. So you get to your first failure and you're like, okay, I failed at something and I learned X, Y, Z. Okay, now version 2.0. I think it's knowing that failure has lessons to teach you and it's part of your journey, and see it as a mile marker, not as a dead end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you don't fail, obviously you're not taking any risks then, right? Because if you're staying safe, you're not going to break through any kind of barriers. And if you think about babies, when they start to walk, like they fall down all the time. But guess what would happen if the baby didn't get up and said, oh, clearly walking is not for me.
Right. My little daughter is a competitive gymnast, and she has a mat in my kitchen. And while I'm cooking, she'll just try these moves over and over again. And she falls a lot. And I get so, quietly, I'm like fixing dinner or something, but I'm so inspired by, she just keeps trying. And she, it's like 1 out of 20 that she'll land when she's trying to learn a new move. And it's like, why she's doing that? It's so natural to her. We should be doing more of that in our work. We should not let that hold us back. The try is the work.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, and when we fail, it's just the key is, okay, what can I learn from this mistake and hopefully not make the same mistake twice.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I don't mind making mistakes, but let's make new ones, please.
Yes. Yes, we're all guilty sometimes of that. So Alaina, you have a blog out, Built Like a Girl.
Yeah.
When did you start that blog?
I started in 2010, right after that conversation with Jim about why more women weren't running home building companies. And when I asked him if I could build a home, I said, what if I, sort of combined my two passions and said, what if I made this kind of a marketing thing? And I blogged about what it was like to manage construction on a home, because I had sold lots of houses at that point, but I was so humbled by how much I didn't know about the actual construction, the day-to-day, the human hands that actually construct our homes. So our brand is very transparent and authentic. So I was able to share my failures and share my surprises. And I'm pretty self-deprecating by nature. And I think that engendered people to want to cheer for me, even as I was failing publicly. It was a really hard process. And I had no idea what I was doing. I would just literally, I had a minivan at the time. My kids were really little. And I'd like drive up to this site and be like, hi, I'm Alaina. I'm going to build this house with you. Will you let me do something? And the framers would just look at me like I'm actually the sales manager. And so it was a great fish out of water experience, which I highly encourage anyone I talk to just get out of your silo, get out of your comfort zone, because when you don't have any of your regular comfort zone around you, you rely on your natural gifts. And if you can grow those natural gifts, then you'll be unstoppable.
Yeah, so don't concentrate on the failures, right? A lot of people say like, oh, if you're not great at this, you should really develop that part of you. But yeah, I believe the same thing. If you have natural gifts, grow those natural gifts.
Right, right.
And yeah, use your curiosity to move you forward. Yeah, I just have a visual in my head of little you, and you're what, 5 foot?
I'm 5'2".
5'2". You're mini you coming on site, and I hope you wear your high heels, right?
Well, to the side I wouldn't, and it was summertime. I'd be in like shorts, and people were like, who is this crazy woman? Like having like a midlife crisis.
Well, that's amazing. That's actually one of the things I love about home building industry is that there's so many things that keeps you on your toes, right? It's anything from just the industry changes. Talk about mortgage side of it alone and all the new regulations that you have to constantly keep up with to be in the known, to be a great salesperson. Yeah. And even the sales, construction process. The other day I learned a very hard way that once you have a hardy cement board up, it's pretty much impossible to change the windows and add doors. And whoopsie daisy, I told the customer we can do it. So, now I know that you have to actually pull the siding off. It's not as easy as cutting through vinyl siding. So
it's hard. Yeah.
We all learn there.
We learn those things, we learn most acutely, I think, when we always say we take it between the eyes. When you hit something really hard, you remember it. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to
not going to do that again.
Now let's move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm curious. So you said you started your blog right around 2010.
Yes.
2010, blogging back then still wasn't as popular, right? Now I feel like everyone and their mother has a blog, right? So how did you even figure out how to do it? Like, where did you learn about it? Who was your inspiration?
I didn't do much research on it. I just did it. I just didn't think about it. I didn't overthink it. I didn't try to get it perfect. I just started writing. And I knew I had, what I would tell myself was just write this story like you're writing an email to your best college friends. Because my college friend, with your college friends or any great friends that you have, you can just be yourself, and you can I didn't want to come off edited. I didn't want to come off inauthentic. I wanted to just write in my natural, genuine voice. So I pictured my college friends reading this and felt a freedom to be myself, because I know they love me. And so I just was myself and wrote exactly what happened. And I wasn't formulating stories. I was more or less it was a documentary of, here's what happened today, here's how I felt, here's kind of what I learned, and here's what's coming next, and kind of shared my fears. And there were funny stories along the way that I just couldn't wait to tell people. The best part of Build Like a Girl and building, because that was the first home I built. I've built 5 since. But the people that you get to meet and talk to, and those human hands, those stories of the people who are actually constructing your homes, like those people stay way, way deep inside my heart. And I love knowing their faces and their names, and it means so much to me when they drive up to a Garmin home site that they know it's personal to me, and they know that I care and that I appreciate them being there. And that's the real beauty of Build Like a Girl, was the connection I was able to make with our trades.
So I love a couple of things you're saying here. I'm just loving what is coming out. So I think we have some tweetable quotes here. So I just did it. I didn't overthink it.
Right.
So you guys, this should be like your motto for your life. Like, if you want to do something, just do it. Right?
Just do it. You don't have
just
to be perfect.
Because when you start to overthink it, you start, oh, you know what, somebody else is doing that already. You know, who am I to start doing this? I don't have the authority. I don't have the experience. You know, and 5 other people are doing it already. Why should I even start? And then you start to think, okay, I need to get it to be perfect. And what I love that you're saying is that you didn't worry about it being perfect.
No.
So I'm lucky, I guess, in the sense that I was not blessed by the perfectionist curse.
Right.
But
Me
I
either.
think a lot of people are, especially in the sales and marketing role. To be successful, you have to be very organized, very on point. And I think you see a lot of perfectionists succeed in that role. Mm-hmm. So what do you recommend to overcome that? To say, like, you know what, I don't want to put not my best work out there. Right. I want to make sure it's my best work. So how can I get over it?
I think you have to have a couple of tricks for yourself. Like when I heard you say, who am I? When you say, like, if the voice in your head says, who am I? You need to answer that voice with, why not me? I think having that ahead of time, knowing how to calm yourself, how to get yourself in a positive space where you can create, and knowing that it doesn't have to be perfect, and what you're putting out is enough. Like, this is you know, the hard work and the effort and your genuine drive will come through more than your perfection will. And perfection is overrated. I actually think people will attach to you more or connect with you more if you're imperfect and you're okay being imperfect. The people who do the best on social media are people who are unafraid to be authentically flawed. Like, all of us have flaws. There is no perfection. In fact, perfect people.
No, don't say that.
Perfect people annoy us. I think once people share their genuine spirit, then it's hard to hate people up close. It's hard to feel anything but love for a person who says, I know I'm not the best writer, but here's what happened today. And just own it. You don't have to apologize for it. You just put it out there, and people will. I think the more you show your heart, the more people take care of it, and they see that you're putting yourself out there, and it's hard not to have a lot of respect and give space to that and honor that.
Yeah, again, what's resonating with me the most is you're saying, okay, perfect is boring, and you don't want to be perfect. You actually want to come through as yourself, and you know, when you're yourself, you're being your authentic self, and nobody's perfect. And that when you're writing in your blog, you were picturing your college friends. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a big mistake that a lot of people make, is that they try to appeal to everyone, and therefore they're not appealing to anyone. right? Because
Exactly.
they're going so broad, because their message is just blah 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 blah, right?
Right.
They're afraid to offend people. They're afraid to make their stance because maybe they're going to isolate certain group of people.
Yeah.
So I love that you said, okay, I actually pictured my college friend and I talked to my college friend and I know they love me, and I was able to share it in a genuine way as if I was writing it to a friend. So I think
Right.
that's a big thing that distinguishes somebody who's able to create a personal brand, and a genuine personal brand is because you're able to narrow down on who you're speaking with. So can you talk to
Right.
us more about that, the
Yeah.
importance of creating your own personal brand? Because a lot of us work for a builder, right? And we sometimes
Right.
associate ourselves as our brand is the builder, but you're not the builder, right? You are you,
Right.
and you have your own brand.
Right.
So how do we, how do we make that brand come through? How do we make it shine?
It's a really good question. You know who's the best at this is
Sure.
Will Duderstadt is the best at this
Will was
from
just
Emma.
actually guest on before you, so yeah,
Okay, good.
he
Will
has
was
a show
fantastic.
coming.
When I was at 40 Under 40 at the conference, he talked about personal brand, and this is something that I've had a lot of freedom to be exactly who I am because I work for a small private company.
Mm-hmm.
I recently started a relationship with a woman as a mentor type of coach situation where she works for a different builder, a public large national builder, and I was giving her some advice on things, and then I was like, wait, can you do that? Are you allowed to do that? And it's a totally different world. And so here's what I think about personal brand. I think that everyone will, it's like a siren song. So don't dilute yourself with trying to be for everyone. If you can find the confidence within yourself to be exactly who you are and know what your voice is and not just echo what people are saying, actually be honest with yourself and confident enough to put something out there, and know that not everyone will agree with you, and that's okay. But know that when you're honest and you say something that some people won't connect to, there's another group of people that will connect and will lean in and be like, oh, I'm so glad somebody finally said that. And the power of that connection far outweighs the risk of somebody being offended. I actually have a little story for you about this because we're in the midst of redesigning both of our websites, the website for Garmin Homes and Fresh Paint. Our Garmin Homes website, instead of quick move-in inventory or featured homes or inventory showcase homes, our website says looking for a quickie, which is a joke.
But I can see how you can offend a lot of people by that, right? Oh,
Exactly.
oh my gosh, outrage.
So, but here's the thing. That offends you, there's a chance we're going to offend you. You might not want to buy a house from us, and that's okay. But for people who go on that website and they say looking for a quickie, and then you click on it and it says quick move in home, why? What were you thinking? It kind of shows a little bit of our personality and allows people to know that we're real people. We make jokes, we make slightly inappropriate jokes, but that actually got us 23 lots at the end of a very successful master plan community because the developer was looking for an edgier, younger builder to hit kind of that hipster demographic, and looked on our website and thought, well, this is different. And so by taking that risk and being who we were able to actually get some lots in a pretty fantastic neighborhood. Now, we are growing and evolving, and so I have since retired the quickie, but it served its purpose, and it was authentic to who we were at that point, and I'm so proud of that. I think that, I've certainly got some feedback about it that wasn't
I'm sure you
as
have.
positive. But it's okay. I'm here for the people that get it, and the people that don't get me, that's fine. I really don't want to sell a house to them if they don't love us. This is more than a job for us. We wake up every day to delight someone and give them a great experience. And and because we love what we do. And if I'm not the right person for you, then that is fine. I would much rather you have a better experience buying from someone else. I don't set out to build a home for everyone. I set out to build homes for people that connect with our brands.
It's like, get out of the car now while you can, right? Before we start driving 100 miles an hour.
Exactly. Yes. This is your exit if you're offended.
So Alaina, have you ever actually turned a client away because you felt that they didn't get you?
Yes. Well, yes, I have. We had a situation a couple years ago where we had buyers that just kept asking us to do, well, can't you just do this, or can't you just do this, and there's this like gross oversimplification of the home building process in the public, and even from some realtor partners, and I was guilty of it, being just on the sales side before I actually was in charge of constructing a home. You don't realize how many ripples there are to every decision you make. So we were meeting with these people who kept asking us to go outside of our process and how we build a home. And the director of sales and I sat down with them, and I said, we're going to follow our process, and it's not going to meet your expectation. But that doesn't mean we've missed our own expectation. It just means that your expectation and mine are not aligned. And you really need to buy from a more custom home builder, because we have a 3-wish program. So you have 3 wishes, and you can't wish for more wishes.
Like genie in a bottle?
Yeah, right. So you can do 3 changes to the home to make it more reflection of what you want. And wishes are a subjective process, because you can't like take the second floor from one home and mash it with the first floor of another. That's a whole new plan. But adding a window, like you said, or a door, those are wishes. But we build in master plan communities alongside other great builders. And there was a builder right next door that I was like, you need to buy from them. Like, you are their market, and we'd love for you to do that. And there's enough. I think it's coming from a place of abundance rather than fear, knowing that there's enough buyers out there that will like us for who we are, and not trying to be the builder that not shape shifting to every buyer in front of you, being very confident, and this is who we are and this is who we aren't.
And I think it's painful sometimes for a sales rep, because you have that customer that's like draining the life out of you and taking up like 80% of your time, just taken up by this one customer who at the end of the day, you're probably not going to make happy. And at the end of the day, their expectations, they're not aligning. So I mean, from a perspective of taking that cut, right? Because we're a commission, it's hey, I got to give you your money back. But I think sometimes you have to make those choices for your own sanity, and to make sure that you're actually able to allocate your time to people who get you and the brand, and people who you can actually make happy at the end of the day.
Exactly. Right? Well, and people who will decide to be happy, because sometimes you'll do everything you can and you're sleeping very well at night. You know that you've done the job that you set out to do, and you feel very proud of the work that you've done, and someone is still upset. That's about them. That is their choice to be unhappy or happy. And we make a choice to be the people that we want to be the builder that we want to be. And at the end of the day, that's what lets us sleep at night or not. It's not about, sometimes the customer response is not the barometer for how well we've done, unfortunately. But perception is reality, and we got to let those people go and make sure that we're being who we want to be.
So when I was talking to Chris Hartley, he was, a 40 under 40 recipient as well, and he was just raving about you, and he mentioned something about a good attitude addendum that you have implemented in your company. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yeah. So the good attitude addendum says, it basically outlines what good behavior looks like for a customer, and it says that we insist on a good attitude from everyone, from each other, from the trade partners, from our developers, from our customers, and we insist on it because we're out to offer a great experience, and a good attitude is an essential element of having a great home building experience. And we don't respond well to threats or screaming emails or being bullied, or, when people come in with their chest bowed up and they're, finger pointing, that is not the space where problems get solved. That is the space where egos get flared. And that's not how we want this to go. So a good attitude says that if you see yourself not able to have a good attitude, because we are going to make mistakes and you can count on it. We can only set expectations for probably 85% of what happens in a new home construction build. 15% we're going to discover on the fly, and some of it we're going to take like right between the eyes, and it's painful. And letting people know that up front, like, there are going to be mistakes, because it's forcing the conversation before you need the conversation. It's saying there's going to be stuff that comes up, and we need you to respond with a good attitude and the benefit of the doubt, so we can get to a solution that works for both of us. Because otherwise, we're just going to scream at each other from behind our computer keyboards, and life's too short for that. So that if you're going to struggle with that, please buy a home from someone else. And know that if you struggle with it during the construction process, we can just give you your money back and cancel it.
That's amazing. I'm going to totally see if my builder will implement this. Good.
I'll send it to you.
It's amazing. So, and I think it's just the importance of, even if your company doesn't have a good attitude addendum, it's just a conversation to have, right? So I find myself having very similar conversation during my pre-construction meetings with clients, where they're all excited. They're meeting the project manager for the first time. We're getting ready to break the ground on their new home. And I always say, hey, it's not going to be a perfect home. It's not going to be built by a machine. Humans are building homes. Guess what? Humans make mistakes. I can almost guarantee you that something's going to go wrong.
Right.
But the key is, have a good attitude, and it's going to be resolved at the end of the day. That's what's important to know.
Right.
But things will happen. And I think a lot of customers just don't realize, like you said, the complexity of building. And especially if you are building custom and every home is a little bit different, and you've never built that specific combination of, an elevator and two owners and a rooftop deck and whatever else you threw in there. You may have you may have that soffit in a place where they didn't expect, and it's.
And we're experts, and we think it looks good on paper, and then we walk it and we're like, uh-oh, this looks terrible, or this doesn't work. Everybody, it's a process. It's so much easier. I'm so glad you're having that conversation with your buyers, because when you call them and you say, hey, remember that conversation we had when I said we're going to have some mistakes? We just hit our first one. Woo! Like, if you can make it something that lightens and normalizes it, I think normalizing mistakes and bumps along the way is what people need, because it's very stressful for them. And not to make light of it, but to actually just normalize it and say, like, we knew something was going to happen. We've hit something. Here's where we are now. Let's work on a solution together. Let's talk about priorities. Let's talk about what's possible and what's not.
Yeah, so I think you guys listening, if you're not having those conversations, it's definitely something you can start doing. And it's about setting expectations up front, so it does make your life easier down the road. Because inevitably with new construction, S hits the fan at some point. So, right?
It does.
So
Every day.
Every time. So Alaina, coming back to a brand, so you have two separate brands, right? You have Garmin Homes and you have Fresh Paint. So why did you decide to separate the two brands? How are they different from each other? And tell us a little bit about each, if you don't mind.
Okay, sure. So Garmin Homes is a boutique home builder. We build mostly, we all have production home building roots, but we layer on this very intensely personal customer experience and relationship. And so it follows a pretty traditional path of, you pick your plan, you pick your structural options, you pick your beautiful home site, and then you go to the design studio and you pick out all the features. So what we started to think about was, it's hard to build all those all those selection sheets. Like when every home is a canvas, it can be very tiresome for the trades, and your pricing will reflect that. We get cost increases all the time, right? And it can get very expensive. And people would walk into our models or our parade homes or any home, charity home where we were showing off and say, could you guys just pick all this stuff for us? You know, there's a whole group of people, especially younger millennial buyers, who didn't want to go through the design studio, wanted more clarity about the end price, and didn't want to, you know, weren't up for sitting in a studio adding things and seeing that tally go up, 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 up. So we thought, what if we designed curated whole home design packages, and people just pick from packages, and it would upgrade the whole house to a specific aesthetic. And then we could be in charge of, you know, we could take on the burden of picking out all the features to make sure they go together, and purchasing that with our trades in bulk for repeatability. We would repeat them all the time. And the covenant we made with our trades is we wouldn't change them. And so I think it was essential, really distilling both brands down to what they were and what they weren't. And if we kind of made it, you know, two roads diverging in a wood and you could take either path, it would get muddy. And people would say, well, I like this package, this fresh paint package, but what if I just change this grout color? What if I just change this backsplash? And there are no changes in fresh paint at all. The packages come exactly as they come. And so I think it was distilling it down to its essence rather than diluting it, and making sure each brand offered a different experience to the buyer. And then the buyer could self-select into the experience that matched the journey they wanted, the journey they prefer, and frankly, their appetite for decision-making and price. And so, so fresh paint offers a very simplified approach. The trade-offs are that you can't make any changes. So if you don't like the way that package comes, you may have to make changes afterwards. With Garmin, you can really make that home a complete reflection of exactly what your vision is. But the price will be a little bit higher typically, and you start off with less included features. So we tried to inject a lot of trade-offs into both brands, but I love the idea of, I love brands. I love that brands have identities and that people connect with brands. And it's fun to see people come into because we sell them alongside each other inside the same models in our communities, and people come in, and to see them connect with one over the other is a really fun process, because, you know, some people just, they think about going to a design studio and they're like, oh my gosh, please kill me now. So fresh paint is really a nice solution for that.
Yeah, I love that you didn't try to jam like a square pan into, you know, a round hole. It's, you decided to separate the two completely, so that it is, you know, it's again goes back to setting expectations with your customers. So this is your expectation with this brand, and this is your expectation here, and you choose, right? And we don't want to mix and match and get into a situation where you're going to be unhappy ultimately. So
Right.
I think it comes down to you being so clear on the brand and what you want to stand for. And I know you guys usually use some pretty fun names for your homes. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the names that you guys name your homes?
So for fresh paint, our first collection is called the Rochambeau collection. Rochambeau is the game all of our kids play, rock, paper, scissors, shoot. So the plans are called rock, paper, scissors, and shoot.
Oh my God, I love that.
And then we have a collection called Happy Go Lucky. And the plans are happy, go, and lucky. And we build in a community called Nightdale Station, and it is railroad themed. And so for our section, we named all the plans after the railroads on the Monopoly board. So short line, B&O, made our sales center like a game board. So I love a theme. I love going kind of all in. For Garmin, our collection, the collection, I love the name so much, is the Playlist collection. It used to be the Mixtape collection because I'm Gen X and I actually had mixtapes, but now we call it the Playlist.
What is that, Alaina?
My kids are like,
mixtape, what?
But it's called
the Walkman?
It's called the Playlist collection. We named each plan after a 2 to 3 word song lyric. That makes us feel something for that plan. So, and it's across all genres of music. So we have the Castle in Brooklyn from the Beastie Boys Brass Monkey.
Mm-hmm.
Our model in Briar Chapel is actually called Castle in Brooklyn. And then we have Sweet for Certain, which is from a Dave Matthews song, Life is Short but Sweet for Certain. And Etta James, At Last. We have a first floor master called Found a Dream. So it's just that it's those little points, those little siren songs that people will connect. It's opportunities for people to connect with you on a different level than just purchasing their home. It's a chance for them to get to know you and know your personality through your brand. Mm-hmm. And your brand should give clues as to who you are and what's important to you. Because if you just completely, make it anonymous by naming it after trees or states or capitals or whatever, you're missing a market.
Presidents, right?
Yeah, right. You're missing an opportunity to connect with your buyer on a meaningful level. Because people have walked in and been like, "Oh my gosh, I love that song." And we had an Everything's All Right from Garth Brooks, Friends in Low Places, and people love that we didn't take ourselves too seriously, and we're looking for moments to connect with people on a different level, get to know them.
Yeah, I can just imagine walking into the sales office and seeing Happy Go Lucky collection, it's so different, it's like right off the bat, it's like, boom, like what? It's not named after presidents or after something, and I feel like as a sales rep, I love to walk into other builders' homes, right? You're always shopping around to see what everyone's doing. And it's a blur, right?
Yeah.
It's a blur. Yeah. It's a blur, because it's all kind of the same thing. So if you can stand out with even little things like that, wow, that's incredible. So who came up with that idea?
We come up with them together, but it's a process. We've always named our plans something descriptive. Mm-hmm. Not always. When I first started, we didn't, and then it was like we're missing this opportunity to really express what's unique about us. Mm-hmm. And so we started with our boutique collection, and we called one plan the Nook and Crannies, because it had all these little like spaces for cute little areas of living, smaller areas. And then we had to shrink the plan. So then for these lot fits. And so we called it the Nookie.
I love it.
People were like, we called one the Vintage Remix, because it was like an old house, but it was remixed as a new house. And just all those ways that it's right there in front of you, really, mm-hmm. when you look at a house and you can see what that house's personality is, when you can take that extra step and visualize what does the family look like that lives in this house, or what do the people look like, or what's the dynamic here, and what is your highest and best wish for the people that occupy this space. The inspiration comes from wanting to imagine something really extraordinary for the people who are going to live inside those walls, and letting that inspiration be the name.
Yeah, I love that you're not afraid to be unique with, obviously who you are, and your homes reflect that, from names to everything. And you guys, the biggest part of importance of building a brand is that it makes selling products that much easier, right? Because once they fall in love with your brand, next time they're in the market to buy a home, or their friends are in the market to buy a home, it's no longer, it comes down to, okay, which home type, which name do I pick now from this brand? Because this is the brand that I fell in love with.
Right. And we're all just trying to be memorable. Mm-hmm. You don't want to blend into the sea of sameness, or what I like to call the sea of beigeness. You need to
the grayness. Come on, Alaina, the grayness.
Everything's gray now.
And the white.
But you gotta find ways to let your personality come through, so that people can remember you, mm-hmm. and make a genuine connection with your brand, identify themselves. They can see themselves in your brand. So you got to give them, I call them little Easter eggs. You got to leave them Easter eggs to discover along the way, so they get to know you.
I love that. I think it's perfect lesson on how we can brand ourselves. So next time you're thinking about your brand, be specific, don't be generic. And
Yeah,
that's the key takeaway.
distill it down to its essence. Do not dilute.
Yeah. And Alaina, one of the questions I like to ask is what books are you reading or maybe read recently or in the past that made the most impact on you that you can recommend for our listeners?
Okay, I got some good ones. My favorite all-time top 3 was probably Tony Hsieh, Delivering Happiness, the Zappos story. And that was a fantastic read. I think Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point. Well, I read that in grad school for healthcare administration, actually, obviously, you know. uh, but that was such a great insight into how what kind of people you need to connect with to get your brand to really take off and get noticed. Rhonda Conger is a friend and one of the best writers for our industry, and really this process of knowing who you are and who you aren't, and really, you know, just wringing the heck out of your strengths and prompting people to really go for it. So her book, You Go First, is something I'm having everyone on our leadership team read right now. And it's an easy read. It goes really quickly. There's exercises in it. So it's a process of self-discovery along the way, which self-discovery is what helps you be the person you were meant to be. And it calms those voices in your head from getting the best of you when you should just go try and do something. And then I like my coach. I have a coach, and she had me read The Four Agreements.
The Four Agreements?
The Four Agreements, and I think it's Don Miguel Ruiz. If you look up The Four Agreements, but I listened to it on Audible, and there was a little bit of like pan flute. It's a little hippy dippy, earthy spiritual, but if you can get past that, I love the message because it talked about the voices in our, you know, what we allow, how we allow ourselves to talk to ourselves, what we allow in our head. So I like all of those as books that everyone should read.
Awesome. I will definitely link that in the show notes. And speaking of You Go First, I'm reading this book now, and Rhonda is actually going to be a guest coming up on the show. So I'm super excited. And I love that she curses.
Oh yeah, both of us. It's bad.
Well, you know, I remember seeing something about that successful people curse and that they're messy.
And I that was one of the things in my writing. And you know, I wasn't an owner at the time. I wasn't the CEO. I was the sales manager. And I said to Jim, this is how I talk. So this is how I'm going to write. Otherwise, I'm going to come across like a fraud. And yeah, it's fine. And I live in the South.
Yeah. I guess, yeah. You're in the South, yeah.
Oh yeah.
You don't have any twang though. So, you know,
I don't. And I grew up in Pittsburgh, and I don't have the Pittsburgh accent either, but I can do it. Especially if I have a few drinks, I can do it.
I can't wait to see that. I'm sure I'll see you in one of the conferences live soon.
Yes. Yeah.
So last couple of questions for you before I let you go. So one is, you know, are there any tools that you use daily that help you stay organized? Obviously, you're super busy and, you know, constantly getting pulled in so many different directions. So anything you can recommend for us?
Tools to stay organized? I'm probably
any tools that you use that you love.
Instacart.
Instacart.
You know, it's an app that you buy your groceries on.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Okay. You know what? I'm a big believer in house cleaners because you know what? I don't have the time. When I'm with my kids, I want to be playing. I want to be, you know, muddy, doing the things. I don't want to be cleaning my house. So I get it. It's especially.
I think Instacart is my favorite app that I've discovered for my life improvement. The other thing is just this goes along with personal brand and just knowing who you are is owning what you're bad at. So I'm pretty bad at voicemail, and my voicemail says, "Hi, you've reached Alaina. I'm great at a lot of things, but voicemail isn't one of them. So please text me."
I love that.
It's just be okay with what you're not great at, but tell people how to be most effective with you. And so, yeah, I'm not terribly organized, and I surround myself with people who are, so that they won't let me fail, and I won't let them fail either. So
Yeah, so you're a millennial in that sense that voicemail what, right?
I can't stand voicemail. I love the transcription feature, thank God, because some people just, they will not text you, or they can't. I don't know.
Definitely. I just read it.
Right.
And lastly, where can we connect with you? So I know you have your 2 websites coming out. So what are the websites? And then if somebody wanted to personally reach out to you, are you okay with that? And where would we connect?
Oh, of course. So I'm on LinkedIn. Just search my name, Alaina Money, and I'm on Facebook. You can find me there, Alaina Money, and I'm at Build Like a Girl on Twitter. I'm not great on Twitter. It's just not the one that I love the most. I'm on Instagram as Alaina S as in Sarah Money. If you just follow that, and yeah, anyone can reach me. You can also text me, 919-622-6855.
All right, we'll link all of that in the show notes as well, so you guys can get in touch with Alaina and get more of why she's so money. I'm sorry, I have to say it. I'm sure you've heard it so many times, and it's probably like, oh my God, there she goes again.
It's so cool. It's a great name. It's a great name. Why would we not make the joke?
Yes.
It's right there.
Yes, absolutely. Money, right? You got to own it. So.
Yeah.
All right, Alaina. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah,
I think all of us can take a lesson from your page of self-confidence. If you want something, just go get it. Don't overthink it, and be yourself. At the end of the day, that's how you build a brand. Is don't try to appeal to everyone.
Right.
Appeal to your people.
Yeah. Yeah. Find your people. They will love you.
Yes. Thank you, Alaina. And I can't wait to see you in person and have a drink with you.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.